Hey, what is up? Welcome back to another video on Diablo 4. So we got some feedback from the developers already. Some of the managers and the development team did an interview slash sit down or whatever with this journalist. And he wrote up this nice story. I'll put the link in the description below so you guys can read it for yourself. There's a lot of it I'm going to skip through because they talk about the Butcher for like the first 20 paragraphs. We don't really care about the Butcher. The feedback that we want to talk about is the dungeon design being lackluster, the same layout, having the same like this, for example, having this garbage the whole time, that's gotta go, and you know what I mean. The crafting system being really dog shit. You only can change one thing. It's Diablo 3 0.5 kind of. And there's just the builds, the skill trees. Dude, the guy Joe Smo that lives on the other side of the world that I don't even know, don't talk to, never met. We meet up in the random dungeon. We're both sorcerers. Guess what? We both have the same skills, same build, same everything, same gear, same everything. Because there's no uniqueness. There's no changing of builds, right? There's no building a unique build, right? There's the skill tree doesn't allow that. So I mean that's a huge problem. So anyways, a lot of other streamers mentioned this too. Quinn, Asmon, all these big people. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump right into the article. Let's start. I'm just gonna start right where they talk about the dungeons. So one other bit of feedback I saw, this came from a few people. Was there not being overly designed dungeons? So the dungeons, like I was saying, like this, you know what I mean? Like this is the dungeon design, So that's not acceptable. It just seemed that the dungeons were too big and involved backtracking to grab keys and then go unlock doors and then so on, etc. Is this something you've seen? And are you taking a look at it? And then Joe said, we have seen it. There's a few elements there. There's some players who ... We added the ability to teleport out of dungeons via the UI. Well, your UI looks like some mobile import garbage console trash. Dude, stop making the game for console. Seriously. The UI is trash. And so then he says, some players don't realize that it exists. Yeah, because your UI is trash. But certainly there are cases within the dungeons where you're going to get a key and then you're going to go somewhere else. Yeah, but every single dungeon is the same layout, my guy. You have to realize that. You have to have played the game. I only played it for 90 hours or whatever. We don't want players to be running through an empty dungeon. In that case is where you're going to be getting a key and you're going to be running back through an area. There should be enemies that are showing up to refresh that. So we're still backtracking, but you're just going to respawn enemies and the dungeon's going to remain the same. It is a goal of ours that you're not running through an empty dungeon basically ever. It can be okay for very short periods of time, but when you think about dungeons overall, and there well over 100 dungeons in the game, and in the beta, of course, you're only seeing the dungeons that exist in Fratric Peaks, which is the region that's currently unlocked in the beta, which is about 20% of the overworld. So, I mean, my guy, if this is 20% of the dungeons, and we only have 80% left, I really hope you have some, extravagant map layouts and, something that doesn't involve just go grab this key or go kill that mob and get that item and then break the seal or unlock the, you know what I mean? It's just, so stupid, dude. Stupid. Why can't we just do, just rip it from PoE? You go in the dungeon, you clear, I don't know, 80, 85, 90%, and that's it. You go kill the boss. Done. What is this? Oh, go to this specific part of the dungeon, get this specific item, then go all the way to the opposite side of the fucking dungeon, get the other specific item from this specific, little spot, and then take that specific item all the way back to the middle of the dungeon. Like, come on, dude. Like, just get out of here. And then it's the same layout, so that just makes it worse. Like, it's the same dungeon layout. Not only is it repetitive, but then it's the same layout. So that's why I gave the game an 8, right? Only an 8. So you guys, anyways. So he said it's about 20% of the world. One of the design decisions made is we wanted the dungeons, individual dungeons, to have certain properties about it that were consistent and tied to that dungeon and that place in the world. Okay, then why do all of them look fucking the same and have the same layout? So that when you go into a dungeon, it's just not drawing off a raffle of elements, and there's some things that are consistent. Okay, I'm fine with consistent enemies, but not layout. That's fine. Consistent enemies or a certain tribe, faction, whatever, crab people, whatever is fine, but you know what I mean? You gotta change up the layouts, just write the code, right? And the way that we want players to approach that is their leveling up is to look at this. I want to do each of these different dungeons, and that's incentivized through things like the Codex of Power and the Renown system that give you sort of checklists for all the dungeons you can do. And when you get into the end game, after you completed the campaign and you access the Nightmare Dungeon system, we have the signals that modify dungeons in really cool ways. Okay, guys, you ready for this? It adds buffs and nerfs. Those dramatically modify the dungeons. But because the dungeons are designed with some properties to start with, you can get a sigil from one of the dungeons and have a context for what it means. It's not just random name that can be anything. Like, dude, bro, you're saying that it adds, like, modifiers, like enemies can crit, or enemies have more health, enemies take less damage from range. Like, that's not changing the dungeon at all. That's not changing anything at all about the dungeon. The dungeon remains the same. This is still going to be the dungeons, right? Just because I change the enemies and the mods inside the dungeon doesn't change the dungeon or the quest. Okay. People are seeing dungeons at baseline. It'll be interesting to see the feedback once people experience what it means to go through sigils and get to see now there's more monsters and they'll have different abilities, and now you'll be debuffed this way and they're being buffed in that way, and it's going to feel much different experience. What are you saying, my guy? It's going to be the same thing, except it just sounds more annoying because I'm doing the same dungeons and the same quest, but with different mobs that do different abilities. That doesn't change the dungeon issue. That has nothing to do with the feedback. You're not even answering the feedback. Alright. Another thing I've seen feedback on is around the relative power of classes currently in the game. I know they're not all in there yet. The Druid and Necromancer are being added in the beta this weekend. I've seen people say the game is easier on Sorcerer being ranged abilities than as it is with Barbarian, who has to fight up close. And the Rogue is somewhere in between. And I've had a go at all the classes, and I tend to agree. Oh, and the feedback is coming from people who somehow have taken all 3 currently available classes to 25. I mean, dude, 3 hours to get to 25. It's not really, dude. These guys are all casual. These are just casual players. These are the guys who like buy the game for the artwork. He's like surprised that people got 3 25s. Oh, okay. I'm surprised that the people did it on hardcore. They got 3 level 25s on hardcore. That's pretty dope. Mad props Sequisha. Sequisha, fucking beast, dude. He didn't die a single time in hardcore. Man, he's built different. Okay, so, yeah, I was wondering if you're, trying to rebalance it. That's what they asked. And then Joe says, Whenever we make changes to the game, it affects the balance. So the balance is a continual progress. And in particular, this beta, in addition to the techno aspects that Rod was talking about, is an opportunity for us to look into the balance and in the wild and make improvements. So certainly there are things like Hammer of the Ancients is a little bit underpowered. A little bit? Huh. Okay, and then he says this, and Frost Sorcerers are pretty strong. Arc Lash is a little weak right now. There's a few things like that. But in general, there are no classes that are only for the really skilled people. What the fuck are you even saying? When you see that campfire lineup, my guy, it's not just mechanics that you're choosing. It's also a class fantasy. So if you have, for example, a fantasy of being a rogue, we don't want you to pick rogue because you think that character looks really cool, and then for us to come back and say, oh no, that's not only for people who have 60 hours of Diablo. You're not good enough. We absolutely don't want that to be the case. The way that we approach it is we make sure that each class, there are builds that are accessible for players, and then there are builds and styles of play. And you mentioned the rogue. The melee rogue is more challenging to play than a ranged rogue, for example. And within a melee rogue, you can get into like, alright, well, I want to build somewhere where I shadow dash through an enemy and I blade twist, and I try to get the blades to go through as many enemies as possible. There's lots of opportunity for a high skill cap there. What are you saying, dude? Are you telling me to like gather up a room of mobs in a little tight ball and then blade twist through them? Are you saying that's high skill cap? Holy God, I hope not. Certainly a rogue, a melee rogue presents a lots of additional opportunities because it's more of a dodge-based class expecting more use of evade. But our overreaching goal is that players can embrace the fantasy of it. Bro, the fantasy of it? Nobody, what are you talking about? And then lean into the playstyles that they want. Or if they want a higher skill cap, they can lean into that. What? Dude, what are you even saying, Joe? Joe, you can't. There's no skill cap, my guy. No, there's none of that. You don't have a. There's not enough like uniqueness in the build to even have a skill cap. Are you saying that dodge is a high skill cap use, that like skill, like spacebar? It's like high skill cap to touch that. Mages have that too, by the way. All right, what did Rod say next? The thing that can't be overlooked either is that you're only getting to play the first 25 levels. Yeah, but we get everything. We get all the ultimates, all the abilities. Like, what do you mean? And the classes don't stay balanced with every level change. The Barbarian is a really great example. Okay, let's hear this. Because the Barbarian has the most weapons of any character, and because of that, they have the most equipment slots of any character, which means they could have the most legendary affixes. No shit. So once you get all the legendaries, the Barbarian can be super strong because it has 2 extra legendary affixes that other characters do not have. But you're not going to have all the legendaries until mainly beyond 25 and above. I don't know, dude. I knew a lot of barbs with full legendaries, and I don't know. I still feel like the Hydra mage was just faster. I don't know. I think the rogue with no CDR was the fastest, but it's hard. It's hard to tell. I don't know. Dude, are you telling me that your balance is because the barb is just a higher skill cap? Is that what you're saying right now, Rod? Just a skill issue? Rod literally pulled out the skill issue on us. Okay. Alright, so let's continue. Same thing with the sorcerers. They have 2 enchantment slots. That means you can have the most skills out of any class. For example, druids specializations happens and I can't pronounce this. Skosglen. Yeah, Skosglen. Uh, which won't be in the upcoming beta. So you're only going to be able to play up to the 25 levels, and you're never going to be attuned with the animal spirits, which is really important for the druid class. And without it, you just don't know what the druid actually is going to feel like. Dude, he just literally said the druid's going to be trash. Ha! Yikes. So the notion of, yes, the individual skills that need tweaking, there's also this notion of about they each come into their own over a period of time. Wait, what? So he's saying everything that's underpowered right now is just going to be overpowered later. Is that what he's saying? So to say, oh, it's much harder as a barbarian in the low levels, it's true. But when you're in level 40 as a barbarian, you might be one of the strongest classes because of the additional 2 aspects, which are the legendary affixes that you can have. Yeah, my guy. No, that's dude. We need more skill tree. We need a bigger skill tree. Like, you need to adjust that. We need more uniqueness in the skill tree. The crafting system, like, can we at least craft 2 things on an item? Can we maybe even craft an item? I don't know. Is there some way to make blues to rare somehow? Maybe. Are you gonna add more than potentially 3 dungeon layouts? You know what I mean? I don't know what this is, but yeah, that's if like you saying that you are adding uniqueness to dungeons by saying that you're just adding random attributes and buffs to mobs, and they'll have debuffs and things like that. That's not what the community was asking for in the feedback. We're asking for uniqueness of map layouts. We're looking for unique map. We want to go into a dungeon and be like, yo, we've never been here. Like, do we go left? Do we go right? Do we go straight? Like, which way is this dungeon? Like, well, I've never been here. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for, oh man, look how cool that mob looks. Like, oh no, that mob looks so cool. Like, nobody cares about the mob. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, Rod and Joe, I don't know, maybe like revisit some of the feedback videos. Maybe rewatch Criparian's. Dude, watch Criparian's video. He like literally lays it all out, like pretty much 100%. And we didn't even talk about all the feedback issues I have with the game, but we talked about the major ones, and which is mainly the dungeon design. And I gave the game has like a 7.98, right? I gave it a solid 8. Okay, but so yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know about the feedback that they gave us and what they had to say. I didn't read everything. I only read, I skipped all the stuff about the butcher, so I'll leave that link in the description below for you guys. But I mainly want to talk about the dungeon changes and like the nonsense they were talking about. So, but yeah, that's it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. Any questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll get back to you. All right, laters. Oh yeah, the video above is from the live stream during the beta. Oh yeah.